Hi. Finally figured out a solution for the brackets. This was the stumbling block of since about a month or so ago now. I've been so busy at work, it's been hard to get anything done at home. These are 3mm cold drawn steel, so they bend reasonably easy without any problems with fracture. I couldn't get anybody in town to bend and laser cut these at a tight enough. This distance between the two flanges here is only about 23 millimeters. I didn't want it too much. I wanted it enough that the from full droop to full bump, that I had enough that the rod end didn't touch here and there, but I didn't want to go too wide and make it pointless. So 23mm was a nice happy medium to allow me all the movement I needed, but not too much room that makes just no sense. Wanted to keep it quite tight, less shear on the bolt, less cantilever. So what I eventually had to do to make the brackets, obviously had the blanks. The blanks just water cut out. That's the blank for the main rod end. This is the blank for the towing eye. I had to make a jig. I spent a day mucking around on the mill. Basically got a 1-inch thick piece of steel, machined this down so that it was the correct width for the inside of the bracket. It's 23mm. Then machined with a ball end a 7-degree angle on the top here. So that's the 7-degree angle that I wanted the brackets. So here, there we go. One of the brackets at a 7-degree angle. Sorry, that way. So when the suspension's in mid-travel, that wishbone is actually parallel with the bracket. That was also going to cause problems for said manufacturing. So basically I made this machined a piece of aluminium just to keep that top nice and square. Draw that out. Obviously this has also been machined with a 7-degree angle there and a 7-degree angle there. Reason being, eventually once the thing's assembled like that, if I wanted to, I thought, well, if they were not quite flat and not quite how I wanted there, I could go there and just whack it in a hydraulic press, smack it down. You think that actually it's turned out pretty well okay. As you can see by looking down it, you can pretty much see there's not much of a gap there to either side, so it's worked out pretty well as it is. On here, obviously you can see by the plates I had the 2 mounting holes drilled, obviously 2 mounting holes cut out with a water cutter. Obviously that lines up with the 2 I've drilled into this bracket. Stop autofocus there, it's better. And then this is the single hole for the rotor. I didn't want to do on the other side because I didn't want to be misaligned. Sooner bend this side here. Then I marked out and drilled this for the first plate. This is the second one I've bent. And you can see the water cut hole lines up really nicely with the hole I've already drilled in the plate. Then I'll drill right through the plates and obviously drill through to the other side nice and simple. For the tie rod end bracket, just to make sure that the holes didn't get too close to here, I drilled another hole over here, so basically instead of bolting it like that, it actually gets bolted up here, obviously on that level. And it'll have to have a hole for this side, because this side isn't symmetrical, so for the left hand side it'll be like that, right hand side it'll be like that. So we need to do 2 for that. But basically, nice simple jig that's turned out to work better than I thought. Started off bashing it with a sand mallet, so a large diameter, like a Thor hide hammer. Got the angle there, and then just clamped it up in the vise to get the last bit, and then just a tiny tweak with the flat end of a ball hammer, just to get them to snug nicely. Didn't really need the fly press or the hydraulic press to flatten them down in the end, so it's turned out better than I thought. So brackets and stuff for me to do. So we've got the upper wishbone coming together. Small 1/2 inch lightweight tube there, just to keep its section, more for anything else that's getting welded, but to be honest it'll add a little bit of anti-movement left to right as the wishbone is trying to pull forward and back. It's obviously trying to pull the two parts of the wishbone together, so it'll add a bit more strength to that, because obviously we're running rubber bushes here and there. I don't want to add any extra strength to the rubber bushes trying to do this, so that will take some of that out. And it weighs virtually nothing because it's just 1/2 inch, 60 thou. Same way we did on the bottom, basically we're doing on the top, so we're making actual proper wishbones. Because of the length of the wishbone here, it does preempt a bit of a moment to do this, so it's better off to have. The notch on this tube here would have been too long. If I'd notched this tube out to mount straight to that, like as I've done here. This angle here you can see just about got enough on a 30mm piece of tube to weld that on. On here would have been enough, so we've come out with a straight directly off that. Wish this bloody camera would stop trying to interfere with the focus. It's really annoying. Sorry about that. So basically run a straight tube here so that the notch is nice and easy onto that, and then basically make it even easier for me to do the towing eye. I'll put a sort of flat piece of plate, triangular plate, top and bottom, and then we'll run our towing eye. Excuse the crudeness to this. Run our towing eye through the two rod ends. There we go, into there. So then I'll bolt there. So I'm going to turn two pieces of steel to go in here yet, and I'll turn the tubes, and eventually you'll see the towing eye will be there like so. Nice and simple. Obviously this tube is way too long at the moment. Once I've got the towing eye happy, then I'll just dice off the tube where it doesn't need to be, so that the plates kind of look like they're on there. So that'll be the towing eye. As you can see, let me just drop this in. I know it's the most flimsiest dry shaft I've ever seen, a piece of aluminium, but the alignment of the dry shaft, this is a turbo gearbox, so obviously has the slightly bigger diff, so it'll be exaggerated. It's like a 1/2 inch towards the back like that, whereas the normal box will be about in line with 5mm further forward. But this one, centre to centre, I think there's about less than 10mm between the wheel, slightly going back to the gearbox. And as far as the height's concerned, we are about in mid-travel at the moment. We have a very low angle there. I think it's only about 3 or 4 degrees, if that. So during normal operation there'll be a lot less stress in the CV joints, a lot less throwing of the grease around, because obviously the more of an angle the dry shaft is, the more it's turning the balls around. That induces heat into the actual CV joint. You're losing power because technically you're actually converting some of that kinetic energy into heat through obviously friction. You're also throwing the grease around the ball joint, so you can see a lot of the cars tend to throw the grease out of the actual CV joint. Well, that's because it's moving the grease around a lot. The only difference having a bit of a dry shift angle on is basically means you don't wear a single point out on the CV joint where the balls hit. As the balls are permanently moving around, obviously they're wearing a larger surface area, so technically they don't wear out the CV joints quite so quickly. Whereas in a dead straight car like this, or if you look at a Formula Ford, that shaft is as dead straight as possible horizontally, purely so that you can take as much power of the engine and put it to the wheels. It will wear the CV joints out a little bit quicker, but you know, if you've got to change them every 50,000 miles in comparison to every 40,000 miles, yeah, you know, is it really worth it? Let's get the power to the ground. Let's not worry about it. These cars aren't particularly normally high mileage vehicles, albeit I must admit I'd probably put a fair few miles on it. Okay, so that's about done. That's where we are at the moment. So I'll continue to flip to the other side. Once the other side's done, then I think I've decided I'm just going to get my pro welder in, to be honest, and just paying the money. He's going to weld up all the frame, weld up all the wishbones, and get all this done in here. I'll do a little second video in a second. I've got some ideas for the roof scoop. I've gone away from the the gills that I thought about and actually thought of another way of doing it. So, okay, video 1 over.